Bobby's telling us some very insightful stuff.
Doing well. Sorry about that, Chris.
Oh, sorry. That's all right.
Hitting the wrong icon there.
PNC out in force today. I see that. Lois Ellis, how are you?
Great. Good to see you, Chris. Thanks for convening the group today.
Oh, for God's sakes. Otherwise, they'd be out on the street and you can see the crowd. We can't have that, right? Keith Lambert.
Hey, good morning, Chris.
Yeah, how are things at LEAP?
Things are going great.
Are they? Give us a little lowdown. What's the latest?
Well, we're deep in the midst of the Ingham County Sunrise Grant Program, which is over the next month or two providing $8.5 million, which is much larger scale than anything we've done in the past with these COVID relief grants to small businesses of various categories ranging from sole proprietors to nonprofits to restaurants, traditional retail, a variety to really kind of fill gaps around some of the other programs that have come out federally and at the state level. So we're doing that. And we actually just had a conversation with Clinton County this morning about potentially doing something similar. So a lot of interest there. And on the project front, a lot of things going on. I don't want to get in too deep right now, so I'll hit on some of those things later on.
All right. I don't want to spoil your presentation. Also, Nicole, I see you at work there, right where you should have always been at work.
Thank you. Hi, everyone.
Good to have you there. I don't know if you can see the planes out that back window or not, but
Not in that direction, but the one in front of me, I can. And the Navy's actually has a large aircraft doing some touch and goes today. So it's kind of fun to see them coming and going and doing some maintenance checks on some of their aircrafts.
So, it's on the aircraft, not pilot training or anything like
Nope,
that.
on the aircraft.
Okay, good. All
Yep.
right.
So Chris, I'm going to pretend like we're networking right before the meeting starts.
Honor.
Nicole, I miss you.
I miss you too.
Well, you're going to see her tomorrow at Rotary. She's my guest.
Hugs tomorrow. All
Good
vaccinated and ready to give hugs.
We can only do virtuals right now. So.
Me too.
Yeah, and I'm able to stay on for just a short period of time. I got to hop off here.
We're putting
soon.
you on first on the roundtable.
Okay.
I know that. Okay. All right. Let's see who else is on here. Mitch Brown, what's going on with you?
Hey everyone, I'm gonna get my video here in a second, but doing well. Good to see you. Good job the other night at the Michigan Small Business Awards. Always appreciate seeing you up there.
Well, I always tell people no one got injured. That's a good outing. So mission accomplished. It's good to see you there too. All right, Rocco Ryczynski on. Rocco, what's up with you? When's your next Italian cooking lesson? Oh, he jumped in, went to the restroom.
Better yet, I want to go in person so I can taste the stuff that he's fixing.
Yeah, I'm afraid that's a ways off. I'm still waiting on a dinner that he and Sherry are supposed to put together for a small group. But yeah, you're right. Carlotta, how are you?
Doing well. How are you doing?
Good so far. Let's not do anything to upset that, eh? Ahmet, how are you?
Good, Chris. How are you? Good to see you.
It's good to see you. Good to see you. You've been busy out there. I know you have.
Well, not as busy as you are, probably.
Well, listen, you guys are in charge of the whole world, right? So you're going to be busy. We'll get back to you in just a minute on the roundtable. Jason Quartz, we're gonna ask you in a minute about do you have any cars?
Oh, great! I've got answers for you.
Oh, good.
I don't know if they're good, but I've got answers.
Well, honesty, best policy.
Oh,
my dad used to point that out, but his adjunct to that was always saying, Chris, you shouldn't lie. You're not bright enough. So I've always kind of lived with that.
Well, Jason, I recently met with both of the GM plant managers here and said, what can we do to help bring these products right into these chips right into Lansing and speed up the process for them to be able to move forward. So we're talking logistics and trying to figure out what we can do to support their efforts.
Yeah, that would be incredible. I know they've got so many cars built in these, it's making everybody nervous just from them sitting on the lot, not getting moved. They're having some mice issues. They're doing some different, I mean, it's just, we call it lot rot, and you don't want them sitting very long. So
You know,
got to get them to the dealers.
you know, it's kind of interesting. I had, and maybe I shared this already, but I had 45 minutes on the phone with the new director of the SBA. And I said to her, are we doing anything to incentivize manufacturing those things stateside? I mean, even Taiwan's a good ally, a good friend. I mean, they even depend on us. Why aren't we doing, I mean, years ago when we were dependent on OPEC, we decided to put a whole bunch of reserves in the ground. And so that protects us now. And I can't believe we're caught in this circumstance.
So it is unbelievable.
Yeah.
In every field, even the appliance field, everything, they're short on everything. So
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and in some of those other fields that are eating up what few chips there are.
yep.
You know, so they're staying out of cars. So I'll talk to Ahmed about that. He's in charge of the world, so we'll have him fix that. All right, I think we're about ready to move into the actual meeting. So we there, Jeff?
11:40.
All right. So here we go. Good sized crowd, and welcome everybody. It's good to have you all here. Welcome to the well, of course, our what is part of our speakers roundtables, our speakers series. This one is going to be very interesting. We're going to have the release of the second quarter 2021 Michigan Future Business Index. Now, the MFBI, it's a survey which has been conducted in one form or another twice a year since 2003, and we are ecstatic to welcome a new underwriter this year, and we'll have them introducing and presenting the MFBI results, as a matter of fact. The MBN Speaker Series, of course, has been going on since 2004, and I was just looking back in the records. Our first speaker was actually Joe Dumars, if anybody remembers Joe Dumars. At the time, he was general manager of the Detroit Pistons, and fresh off a career being a two-time world champion with that organization. So we've got a pretty storied history here of great speakers. And when COVID hit, of course, we had to transition to virtual web events. Live events are going to return to the mix, so you're going to want to keep track of that. So stay tuned for those announcements coming up. The MBN Speaker Series has been very popular, done extremely well, and our audience gathered today are from across both peninsulas of Michigan. We actually have people joining us from foreign countries. I actually think in Canada, some of those people are joining us, trying to learn English. It's just a joke for our Canadian friends. All right. This is going to be viewed live and is also being recorded so that you and others can go catch it at a later date on our website, MichiganBusinessNetwork.com. And of course, as always, we thank you all for joining our ever expanding and growing audience. Now, if you lose, by way of housekeeping, if you lose your connection, you can rejoin using the same unique link in the email that you used to join initially. If you go back in through Zoom, remember that the meeting ID is 832-6055-6542, and the passcode is 320386. And of course, you all know that these events don't happen without sponsorship, and we are deeply indebted to them to allow us to continue to do this. PNC Bank, well represented in our audience today, as a matter of fact. Shaheen Chevrolet Cadillac, we're going to hear from those folks as well. LAFQ, we want to thank them for their support over these many years. Capital Region International Airport, Fly Lansing. Why would you do anything else, right? Dean Transportation has always been with us. Also MSU International Center, Broad College of Business, and C2AE, and you're going to hear from all those folks. Now, we normally feature the results of the Autumn Michigan Business Index with events. So we present the autumn ones at many different venues that stretch from literally Flint, Southeast Detroit, Grand Rapids, all the way to Marquette and Traverse City. So these things get presented live at different events around the state. And Then the summer one generally has been just a release to the press. And so you found the results of that. Well, we've decided to heighten that a little bit by putting it on the speaker's tour here. And with that in mind, we're now going to go around the room, our virtual room, for our very popular community roundtable to get 1 or 2 minute updates from each of these folks. And Nicole, I know as the new CEO at the airport, you've got a million things to do. So we're putting you on first so you can fly out of here, right?
You got it. You got it. Thank you so much for the opportunity to talk to everybody and see so many great friends on the Zoom meeting today. And of course, was this week 11 for me back at the airport. So many of you knew me being in the airport director role before, but I'd spent 26 years in the aviation industry working for United Airlines and involved in travel management and then in development efforts for the airport, and spent the last about 3 years with U.S. Senator Gary Peters as a regional director for him. So I'm excited to be back at the airport. A lot of great initiatives and projects that I'm working on. So it's all focused on development. It's passenger development, cargo development, land development. So we're about still 20% reduced seats in the market in comparison to 2019 numbers. But as we progress through this year, in December, we'll be exceeding the seats in our market, meaning the amount of aircraft seats, passenger seats that we have in our market, with a big focus on key markets for future development. So what connects well with our business community? It's Atlanta, Charlotte, and as well as New York. So those are some of the key initiatives moving forward. And hopefully you guys continue to hear more about some of our initiatives there and some incentives and development efforts that we're making with some marketing as well. Redeveloping and reassuring our relationship with UPS is key and probably one of the number one with our cargo partners. Looking at opportunities with FedEx and Amazon and all those feeders, and then looking at some land development. So we have a feasibility study that we're working on right now for about 37 acres that we have at the airport, and appreciate the support from LEAP and all the work that they're doing to help us put some buildings on that grass and continue to see some developments there. Now, I personally have had the opportunity in the last 3 months, travel 4 times in and out of Lansing. It's been clockwork. I've been able to make connections. Flights have been running on time. Continue to keep in mind for any of you that are looking at traveling over the next couple months, you still are required to wear a mask in the airport as well as on the airlines when you're traveling. But we hope to see all of you come January 28th. Our international flights are coming back. So we'll have 3 to Cancun and 2 to Punta Cana. So they'll begin January 28th. They'll run until the first week of April. So we're excited to see that kick off with Apple Leisure Group, and reach out to some of your local travel agents to help support you and get you booked on one of those flights down the road. So those are some of the key things I wanted to share today, Chris. Great to see everybody. Look forward to working with all of you as we move forward.
Well, we look forward to that too. And your grand plan has just been incredible. I've been getting a lot of feedback to it. And for those of you who think it's just passenger load out there that makes the airport important to this community, don't forget the freight that runs in and out of there, and the corporations. And I could, off the top of my head, name 3 corporations, major employers, who would move from this community without an airport, because they have to have it for survival. So the ramifications of the airport's health go far beyond you and I taking a vacation. Nicole, thanks. I know you got to run. Appreciate that. Thanks for the job you're doing. All
Appreciate
right.
it.
All right. Next up, Tim Salisbury, Regional President, Mid-Michigan at PNC Financial Services, and a good friend. Tim, are you there?
Hey, Chris. Good morning. So I've already had my technology challenges. My computer was fighting with Zoom, so I had to steal a computer from one of my colleagues. So hopefully will work all right for us. Hey, I wanted to first do a little shout out to you. Great job Tuesday night with Michigan Celebrates Small Business. That was fantastic. It was great to see so many happy faces from all around the state, especially in-person faces for the first time in so long. And just one more congratulations to any award winners that are with us, or even past award winners that are with us. That's great accomplishments. So, some of the things that we're seeing at PNC, all of our clients are really seeing the same things you were kind of talking about in the early conversation that was going on, right? Talent shortage, supply chain disruption, inflating prices. But another thing that the pandemic seems to have really done is accelerate the topic of business transition, and in PNC, we're spending a lot of time having dialogue and advising our business owners on what's next with their company. And that could be, bringing in the next generation of family. It could be selling to their management team. It might be selling to employees through an ESOP, or even an outright sale to a strategic or financial buyer. So any of you business owners that are wondering, what to do, I want you to have confidence that PNC's here with services and be happy to help, whether that's PNC ESOP Advisory Group, our PNC Wealth Management Services, or our investment banking company, Harris Williams. I could go on about the bank's view on inflation and other business topics, but like you, I'm eager to hear kind of Mark's presentation and get the view from our business owners and gain some valuable insight as to what they're feeling and expecting for the rest of 2021 and beyond. So, Chris, with that, I think I'll just turn it back over to you.
Well, I'll tell you what, you brought up Michigan Celebrates, and PNC, and you were honored for being a founding sponsor. You guys have been there since day one. And we
Long time, right? 17 years.
Yeah, greatly appreciate that. All right, next up, Jason Quartz. I see a lot of cars around town, but not as many of them are moving as I'd like.
Hi, Chris. Thanks for having me on, and proud to be a sponsor with you again. Yeah, new cars are still a challenge. Hats off to my staff and all my employees here for taking on this challenge. And it's a new way to sell vehicles, but just trying to prepare the guest. And I nonstop am talking to everybody that they need to prepare a little bit more. They need to, you might not see the car on the lot, but there's lots of cars coming in every single day. They're just all sold. So you need to stop in, reach out to our BDC at ShaheenChevrolet.com or ShaheenCadillac.com. They'll tell you what's inbound, what we've got in the system. There's lots of vehicles built that are being shipped, but they're going fast, and every dealer is in the same position across the whole country. So when that happens, then you have a used car market that's normally pretty hot, and that's what we're dealing with also. We've got lots of used cars, but it's very challenging. Also, those prices are up a little bit. And some customers are just taking advantage of selling their car and getting more money for their car than they used to, and they were able to hold off or maybe order a new vehicle and wait. But we're dealing with it. And ultimately, I gave Ralph the day off today, so he's not on the Zoom with me. It's his first day off this year. But
What?
anyhow, Cadillac's going strong. We had our best 2 months in a row, selling lots of new Cadillacs, and that inventory has really shortened up also. But overall, our service body shop is extremely busy. Our 8-bay quick loop. So lots of people are maintaining their vehicles knowing that maybe they're not quite trading yet. So
Makes sense.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. But ultimately, we're still getting vehicles and delivering cars every single day. You just might not see them on the lot. So.
All right. Thanks, Jason. Appreciate it. Let's use some of that square foot behind you there to start putting those chips together so we can get those cars. Rebecca Allen from LAFQ, Commercial Loan Officer. We get PNC covering the bank sector and LAFQ covering the credit union sector. What's going on with you, Rebecca?
Hello, all. Thanks for having me. This is my first time here, so thanks.
Welcome.
Yeah. And I'm only here because of Miss Tammy Wilson. She started my banking career and hired me as a part-time teller back in 2001. How funny is that?
That's awesome.
Oh, it's great to see you, Tammy.
Okay.
So I'll just
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
So I just want to give a quick update. So quick update on us. I'm Rebecca Allen, Commercial Loan Officer at LAFQ Credit Union, your credit union for life. We've been able to help over 30 local businesses this year with over $700,000 in loans through the SBA's PPP loan program, while still offering our regular lending throughout the year, which has been fantastic. We do have money to lend here. I know you'd asked about that in the beginning there, Chris. So we definitely do. We love helping Michigan businesses save money with our amazing interest rates, whether it's refinancing a loan from a competitor or financing a new purchase. We're definitely here to help. We can finance loans between $50,000 up to $6 million. A lot of people don't realize that. So we definitely have that flexibility. Excuse me. We specialize in non-owner occupied and owner occupied commercial real estate and investment property like apartment buildings, industrial buildings, and warehouses. We also finance new construction, restaurants, delivery routes like FedEx, equipment, and commercial vehicles. We offer great business lines of credit, business credit cards, and a great team to help you out throughout the lending process, which is partly me. So,
There you
so
go.
that's it. So thanks. It's my quick update here. Looking forward to meeting everyone in person one day soon, hopefully. And again, Rebecca Allen, Commercial Loan Officer with LAFQ Credit Union, your credit union for life.
Good to have you with you. All right, thanks, Rebecca. Appreciate that. Ahmed Kirsha, so good to have you back with the International Business Center. He's the Director of International Business and Marketing at the Department of Marketing at the Broad College of Business. And Ahmed, I understand you're doing a little shuffling around. You've got some big news for us today, personnel-wise.
Yeah. Thanks for having us today. And we're pleased to support your efforts. You're doing a fantastic job. Thank you. Well, yeah, I do have a few good news for you, and definitely one of them is about Carlota and the fact that we're working from our office, and we are in my office now. That's why you can see two faces in the same screen, which is kind of odd after the pandemic, for me at least. I went down and had a conversation with a friend, colleague that I have not seen for almost 2 years now, and I was late for my meeting, which is again unusual, but it's good to be here. And before I introduce Carlota, I would also like to mention that in IBC, MSU Cyber, we've been very busy lately. We have done a phenomenal job. Our team on the AIB side, Academy of International Business side, has done a phenomenal job of launching a conference for about 1,300 people online. And that lasted 5 days. And as you know, we are the headquarters of the Academy of International Business, one of the most prestigious academic organizations in the business community, academic community. And we organize their conferences as annual conferences every year, and we've just finished one. Our team has done a very good job. We have a lot of initiatives and new initiatives in the Broad College for our own students at the undergraduate and graduate level for the doctoral students. Our ultimate aim is to enhance a global mindset among our students. And hopefully, once the pandemic is over, we're going to be able to send our students to overseas trips, education abroad programs, find them internships. But we've been a little bit slow on that front because of the pandemic, but we've been having our own webinars through Global Business Club or the research spotlights for the academics as well as practitioners. So I would encourage you to go and check our website at ibc.msu.edu or just look for MSU Cyber and you can sign up for our webinars. We have both for academics as well as for the local business community. So I'm sure you're going to enjoy those ones. And now I would like to introduce you, Carlota Gumacco. I hope I pronounce your last name somewhat close to what it is supposed to be. Gumacco?
Yeah, that's actually perfect.
That's right. Gumacco. And she's our new Assistant Director of Outreach. And we're looking, she started on July 1st. And well, she's a great addition to our team, and I think she's going to be working with you as an outreach specialist. And well, I'll just hand over to her so that she can introduce herself and give us some information about her great work experience and how it fits this position.
Sure. So it's very nice to meet everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. The last name, the confusion about the pronunciation, it's because I was born in Italy, but I grew up in Austria. And it always sounds very cliche, but if anybody knows the movie Sound of Music, That's exactly where I'm from, with the, the church, the hills, the fields. That's what I like to call home. I came to the States 10 years ago for my undergrad, also spent some time in China. I worked for the German Industry of Commerce in Beijing, then came to the US Chamber of Commerce in DC. 5 years ago, moved to Michigan, worked for the Detroit Regional Chamber. And then I was part of the spin out to the Detroit Regional Partnership. So I've actually worked with FDI and export and trade pretty much my entire career. And now I'm looking forward to, continue that work at MSU. And I look forward to meeting all of you.
Well, I have to say, Carla, you look so familiar, and I bet it was from the policy conference up north. I don't know if you were all hands on deck for that thing, but we've been up there every year too. And Tammy and Sandy Bro are good friends of mine. So I'm sure that's where we met originally. So you're a good one. We are going to look forward to working with you in the future.
Thank you.
Good to have you here. Good to have you here. All right, next up, Bill Kimball, President, C2AE. You guys are always on the cutting edge of what's happening. What's going on in your industry?
Yeah, appreciate it, Chris. Bill Kimball, C2A Architects and Engineers. We have 7 offices totally, 5 in Michigan and 2 in New York State. So we service the governmental, education, and manufacturing sectors across that region. A couple of projects that we're working on close to home here, Chris, that might be interesting to folks is the Mdot, Michigan Department of Transportation, I-496, 127 expansion. It's going to be adjacent to the new replacement hospital there at McLaren. Is going to be increasing the highway capacity in that region. We're working on the design of that with Bergman. And so that should be a project coming your way in the next couple of years. Lansing River Trail, bridge improvements projects. The River Trail is a great place to spend time, get outdoors, socially distanced. So played a key role during the pandemic. So those types of facilities are critically important. Others, K through 12 in higher education, like MSU, we're building some facilities there. So we continue to do that work across the state of Michigan. And lastly, for our veterans, we're doing a lot of hospital work in Michigan and New York, an expansion of hospitals that the veterans own across those regions. So glad to be part of this, and thanks for bringing the insight that you bring, Chris, as part of this survey.
Well, it was good seeing you and your wife do it at Michigan Celebrates the other night. Thanks for that. I always love your hot off the press reports. You'll be seeing that in a few years. I love that. You guys truly are on the front end of progress. All right. Thanks, Bill. Paul King, we've had you reasonably busy here, President of ROI Insight. I think Paul has done our survey since almost the beginning. There were very few years he didn't do it. Paul, you want to jump in and give us a few comments?
Sure, be happy to. Things are going well here. Actually, had one of the best years I've had so far in working on various projects. And it was nice to see Nicole at the airport, because I'm about to meet with her in a couple of weeks, where we've done some work with the airport in the past and about to do some more. So it's been a busy year, actually a busy couple of years. So things are going well. And as you will see here in a few minutes, as far as the survey is concerned, there are some challenges, obviously, still going on in the small business community throughout the state of Michigan, but there are some positive things happening as well. The data shows that there's a rebound happening, but as I said, there are some significant challenges that still need to be handled as we move forward.
All right, we are looking forward to that. And of course, Paul and I will both be hanging around too for this whole thing, because having reviewed it, looked at it, been a part of it, we'll jump in and help if you have questions. Also, if you have questions, go in the chat room and put the questions there, and Jeff will be pulling those off and bringing them into me. So we'll make sure everybody who has a question gets it taken care of. All right. All right. In the meantime, the main show now, I want to introduce Ryan Robinson, CPA, Executive Vice President, Operations and Corporate Risk Management at Cinnaire. He's going to be filling in for Cinnaire's president and a person that a lot of you know because they're incorporated here in Lansing, CEO Mark McDaniel. Ryan actually joined Cinnaire in 2011 as part of the asset management team. In early 2020, Ryan was promoted to Executive Vice President of Operations and Corporate Risk Management. In this new role, Ryan will guide Cinnaire to the development of a clear focus on execution and accountability, drive operational efficiency, proactively manage their risk profile, and will continue to oversee asset management through a team of vice presidents. And then I think Ryan walks on water, if I'm not mistaken. During his time at Cinnaire, Ryan has worked as an asset manager, spent time as the vice president of fund management, overseeing the asset management department as vice president of asset management, and prior to his current role, took on additional responsibility managing Cinnaire's enterprise risk management system as senior vice president of asset management and risk management. Prior to joining Cinnaire, Ryan worked as the comptroller of a Lansing-based mutual insurance company, MCIM, and he began his professional career at Plant Moran as an auditor, specializing in real estate and affordable housing. So Ryan also volunteers on a lot of boards, one of which is he is president of the Lansing Housing Commission. So Ryan, with that, we're going to give you front and center stage to present this 2021 summer MFBI.
Okay, thank you, Chris. We've got a lot of information to go through here, and like Chris said, we'll have some Q&A afterwards, so please get those questions submitted and we won't miss anything. So Paul, you want to go ahead and start the slideshow there? Thank you. You can go ahead and move ahead one when that's ready. So the Michigan Future Business Index Survey provides an opportunity for business leaders to share their insights and provide perspective on Michigan's economic outlook. The information collected is critical to supporting the future success of business in Michigan, providing data for policymakers, community leaders, and advocates to better understand current challenges businesses are facing. Successful small businesses are an important component of healthy communities, and Cinnaire is pleased to join the Michigan Business Network to share the results of this year's report. This year's survey includes 617 small to medium-sized businesses, providing feedback from June 2nd through July 13th of 2021. Now, before we get into the details of the survey, I'd like to share with you who Cinnaire is and what it is that we do. Cinnaire is a nonprofit financial partner that supports affordable housing developments along with community and economic revitalization initiatives through creative investments, loans, and real estate development services. Over the past 28 years, Cinnaire has invested nearly $5 billion to support the development of over 800 housing communities in 10 states, providing close to 50,000 affordable apartment homes for more than 100,000 individuals and families. In our mission to change lives and transform neighborhoods into thriving communities, Cinnaire has helped to create or retain over 76,000 jobs and spur nearly $9 billion in economic impact. I'll share a little bit more about Cinnaire as we move through the presentation. So now let's begin by taking a look at some of the key takeaways from this year's survey. So business is on the rebound and is optimistic about the future. The sales are expected to rise over the next 6 months, but with pressure from hiring incentives and reduced margins, the trend for profit shortfalls will continue. Inflation is now a significant concern among small business owners, and we'll talk a little bit more about that later. For the second year in a row, acquiring talent remains the top challenge to doing business, with respondents indicating it is now more significant given the pandemic and unemployment benefits provided to those choosing not to return to the workplace. White-collar sectors report that remote work is here to stay, and fewer than 1 in 5 businesses will require employees to receive the COVID-19 vaccination before returning to work. So let's look at the past 6 months. Over the past 6 months, most indicators are hitting record lows, with only wages showing a record increase. Half of the survey respondents report their employee wages increasing over the past 6 months. The sectors reporting the most increases were manufacturing and distribution, real estate, insurance, and finance, and retail and food service. Being in both real estate and finance world, Cinnaire has experienced wage increases firsthand. Our internal compensation structure has not yet changed, but we are starting to see pressure from outside opportunities offering higher salaries. Over the past 12 months, Cinnaire has experienced some staff turnover from the same or similar jobs paying 15 to 20% above our current pay scale. To try to get an idea of what's going on, every few weeks I will go out to some job sites like Indeed and search for roles at Cinnaire employees. And I have been starting to see what I would consider significant pay increases for many of our staffing needs. As Chris mentioned, I oversee asset management, and just searching in the asset management world, I'm typically seeing 10 to 25% increases in pay for jobs that we currently employ at Cinnaire. In addition, many of the jobs online right now are offering remote options, so that's a bit scary as well. A little bit later on, I'll talk about what we are doing at Cinnaire to get our heads around this challenge. Next, we see that capital investment has hit a record low, with 21% reporting a decrease over the past 6 months. Staffing levels have also decreased for nearly 30%, reporting. Businesses reporting a reduction in sales has also hit a record level, with almost 4 in 10 respondents indicating a decrease in sales over the past 6 months. Profits have also decreased, with nearly half of businesses reporting a reduction over the past 6 months. Satisfaction with the economy. Though below pre-pandemic levels, has rebounded sharply since June of 2020. 52% are now saying they're satisfied, 38% somewhat satisfied, and 14% indicating very satisfied. If you recall, 1 year ago, only 11% of respondents just stated that they were satisfied with the economy. There are some that are still unsatisfied, right now reporting at about 48%, but this is down from 73% 1 year ago. One challenge that Cinnaire is facing with satisfaction is the dual nature of our business. An in-demand construction industry combined with rising cost of materials may prove beneficial for general contractors. However, the development and maintenance side of real estate is challenged with rising expenses and a slow growing revenue stream. As we underwrite new real estate investments, we have seen material increases in development cost about every 30 to 90 days. This has made it increasingly difficult to close transactions with confidence that your construction budget won't change significantly after you break ground. Add on to this an overall labor shortage, and it's hard to say where the breaking point is. I would say that Cinnaire's satisfaction with the economy is driven by demand and opportunity, but as we'll talk a bit later, there's a real cost concern there as well. Our next graph shows the satisfaction trend over the past 15 years. You can see the red shaded area to the right there is the period of the pandemic. So well recovered, you can see still below pre-pandemic levels. Greatest challenges to doing business. As mentioned earlier, acquiring talent is again the greatest challenge. This is currently most significant among manufacturing, distribution, and construction sectors, with 60% of those surveyed stating acquiring talent as the greatest challenge. You can see here that inflation, COVID-19 regulations, and other government regulations have been added to the survey this year. At 23% and 19%, these two represent significant challenges in today's business environment. At Cinnaire, we have seen the length of our hiring process increase. We were averaging 2 to 4 months from posting a job to making an offer. Now we are more in the ballpark of 3 to 6 months, with some positions taking a year or more to fill. In certain instances, we have had to use recruiters to find skilled positions that in the past we could fill through the normal hiring process. I would like to comment though on the quality of the new hires that we've had. Years ago, Cinnaire committed to reevaluating its hiring process to be more intentionally focused on the values of diversity, equity, and inclusion. Since that time, we have experienced larger, more diverse, more skilled pools of talent to meet our staffing needs. So while it is true that over the past 2 years, our hiring process has taken longer to complete and talent can be hard to find, Cinnaire's commitment to diversity, equity, and inclusion has made our team stronger and more capable of living out our mission. Next up, greatest reasons for optimism. Business growth and demand top the list here. You can see growth and expansion is highest in manufacturing, distribution, and construction. Demand is also the highest in this sector. Looking at this chart, we see responses to the question, how is your business doing now? Starting before COVID-19 through today. While all responses have improved since last May, we are still significantly off from pre-pandemic business health. Cinnaire would respond to this question by saying good to excellent. And as I said earlier, we are in real estate in the finance sector, but our response is really based on how we've responded to the pandemic than just being in real estate and finance. Pre-pandemic, our capital raising function and our business development function worked more on a schedule throughout the year rather than being market demand focused. In March and April of 2020, we spent a lot of time internally talking about our approach and whether or not it was going to work in this new environment, and then spent a lot of time talking with our investors and our developer partners, and saw an opportunity to shift our business model to a more demand-focused approach, adapting to the needs of our investors and developer partners in real time rather than on a semi-fixed annual plan. As a result, we've been able to raise more capital and secure more investment opportunities than in previous pre-pandemic years. Without the need to evolve to this pandemic-shaken industry last year, I'm really not sure if we would have challenged ourselves to make such a big change, but I'm certainly glad that we did, and I think it's a good lesson learned that we can carry into the future. In response to being asked about offering remote work options, roughly 41% say yes or probably yes, with 46% saying no or probably no. 13% surveyed have yet to decide. This is an interesting graph to me. I'll start off by saying that Cinnaire absolutely will offer remote work options. We have actually already drafted and released our remote work policy to all staff in advance of our office reopening in a few weeks on August 2nd. Our path to this point really started years ago, though, with a commitment to investment in technology. Not getting into the boring details of these previous investments, I can say that what did happen was it allowed us to take the entire company remote last year in a matter of days. I think it was Thursday, March 12th. It's funny how you remember dates when something big happens, that Cinnaire announced it was going to go full remote for the pandemic. And on Monday, March 16th, all of our staff, with the exception of a few in the finance department, were working from home. Over the past year and a half, we have experienced productivity, flexibility, and I think everyone would agree, a newfound trust in a remote approach to work. When talking with staff this year, many referred to the flexibility offered through more remote work as a benefit to them and their families. When the executive team at Cinnaire began talking about reopening our offices and what the future might look like, we all agreed that we wanted to continue to offer our staff the benefit of a flexible schedule and a remote work option if they so desired. Just less than 1/3 of our staff have elected to work remotely full-time. A small percentage has chosen to work in the office full-time, but the majority of our staff have chosen a hybrid approach to office and remote work. So when we do go back in a few weeks, we'll start to see how this works. We'll probably talk more about it into the future. Next up, we talk about vaccinations. When asked about vaccinations, 64% of respondents indicated that they would not or probably would not require their staff to receive the vaccination before returning to work. 18% responded yes or probably yes, with another 18% undecided. 24% of businesses indicated that they are fully recovered from the pandemic, with 38% stating that they will be fully recovered by the end of the year. One quarter of those in the retail food service industry, and nearly 3 in 10 in the recreation, tourism, and entertainment sectors say they are not sure if they will ever recover. As far as it relates to Cinnaire, I'd say that we've already fully recovered. 2020, our gross revenue was down from pre-pandemic projections. We were able to make a profit, though small. I talked a little bit about our changed approach to the way we've done capital raising and the engagement with our developer partners, as well as the opportunities for growth and demand in real estate. We do expect 2021 to be a record-breaking year for us. Sales and profits. Projected sales growth is back to near pre-pandemic numbers, with 57% projecting sales growth. At the same time, though, decreases in profit are at near record levels. 20% expect profits to continue to decline over the next 6 months. 44% believe profits will increase. However, this figure is still down from June of 2019. The demand for talent is at a record level. 46% of respondents say they will be hiring in the next 6 months. 44% say they're going to maintain current staffing levels, with only a small percentage saying that they intend to lay off some employees. Hiring was most significant in manufacturing, distribution, and construction. Projected layoffs were the highest in the nonprofit and the healthcare sector. 6 in 10 businesses report having difficulty filling jobs. This was up 10 points since June of 2019. And 80% of those actively searching for talent report having difficulty. More than half of the respondents report lack of qualified candidates as a leading challenge, and roughly 1/3 cite lack of interest or lack of applicants in open positions as a challenge. Next up is wage inflation. Certainly has taken hold. A near record half of all respondents say they have already raised wages in the past 6 months, and 41% say they will continue to raise wages in the next 6 months. A little bit earlier, I shared about wage inflation that Cinnaire has experienced through some staff turnover. Because we feel this is going to continue to be an issue, Cinnaire has engaged a third party to perform a compensation study so that we can truly determine if we're still competitive in the marketplace. And we are looking at all positions within Cinnaire. In the past, when we did some compensation studies, we did that at some of our less experienced staff levels, but we're looking all the way from entry level up to the executive team now. Our real intent here is to continue to have competitive compensation packages, not just to attract talent, but to retain talent. I certainly don't believe that this issue is going to go away. And I do believe that one good way to mitigate the challenge of finding new talent is to retain the talent that you already have. And so we want to make sure that we don't lose good staff to other opportunities. We plan on having this compensation study done in the next month or so and implement any changes as soon as possible. So I'm sure Mark will talk about this in the future meetings. A majority of those surveyed plan to invest in employee training, a slight increase since 2019. 52% say they're going to invest in advertising, with 23% planning to invest in new equipment. And nearly 4 in 10 businesses plan to add a new product line or service. Talent acquisition, staff retention, and investments in employee training really are all interrelated. I can share that when I joined Cinnaire just over 10 years ago, at that time we had around 43 staff. Today we are closing in on 120. As we started to hire more and more staff that were early in their career or from a related industry, we quickly learned that we needed a stronger onboarding process. Over the years, this has evolved into formal onboarding processes for each functional area within Cinnaire. We have book clubs and new hiring academies, and most recently, the creation of a new position in HR titled Director of Learning and Talent Development. In conjunction with HR and leadership across the company, this person works to formalize and to normalize learning and educational opportunities for all of our staff. We are in the process of developing a video training library and have already established an ongoing Lunch and Learn series for staff to learn about the company, the industry, and other professional development curriculum. It's been a huge help having a person dedicated to this learning and talent development. In the past, all of this really fell to our leadership team or to our management group. And to be honest, we saw varying results across the company. That's why I use that word normalize. With this role, we hope to create the same experience and opportunity for growth for all staff that's there. Talking about inflation, 67% of businesses are concerned about inflation, with 40% indicating extremely concerned. I mentioned rising construction costs a little bit earlier, and that is certainly a concern, but recently another thing we've seen at Cinnaire is the expectations for increased investor returns. Though slight now, we are expecting this trend to continue and are starting to stress test our underwriting expectations to take into account potential increases in rates of return. If inflation concerns are realized, we will certainly see our investors' returns increase. Now, this may sound like a good thing for some, but rising returns combined with rising development costs typically make affordable housing investments more difficult to underwrite and result in reduced margins for companies like Cinnaire. Our last few slides here are wrapping up with some of our conclusions. I'll run through these before we get to our Q&A. Satisfaction, as we said, is rebounding, but still fragile. We're bullish on sales projections but still concerned about profit margins. Similar to pre-pandemic surveys, acquiring talent remains the most significant challenge. And steps taken by the government to mitigate COVID-19's impact on the economy have added even more pressure on the labor market. In addition to wage inflation, we're watching price inflation, as many of those surveyed list this as a significant concern. Lastly, the perception of Michigan's small business market remains optimistic, with 70% believing Michigan is pretty good or excellent, and 6 in 10 believing that state taxes are mostly or very fair. So this wraps up our detailed portion of this presentation, and I'm happy to turn this back over to Chris and Paul, and we can get into some of the Q&A.
Well, I think so. And we've got a couple of questions. Lois Ellis, wondering if supply chain disruptions showed up in the survey results. And they probably would have had we asked about them, to be perfectly frank. Paul, I don't know if you've got a better response than that, but supply chains were absolutely part of this. And it's my understanding, quite frankly, that it was the supply chain sector in many cases, which is where the profits are being made and causing the inflation, not necessarily the producers and certainly not end users, but the people who transport or fabricate are the ones who are making a fair amount of money. And some supply chains, obviously, we've seen it, were disrupted. So I could only tell you anecdotally, but I'm pretty sure, Lois, they absolutely were.
Yeah, and I can add to that. We did see some of that in the verbatim comments for the open-end questions, and some of those are, those questions about challenges and reasons for being optimistic are open-end questions. So we do get those. They didn't come in as the top concern, but we did see that in the responses, for sure.
I had a few quick comments on the numbers that we found that I jotted down last night. Construction was one of the first industries back to work, which is why they got pretty good numbers, because they were restricted. It was unrestricted earlier, so they rebounded a little more quickly. I think what's important here too to remember is attitude, because attitude in small business, which is this, about 99% of this is small business, is an economic driver. So if small businesses feel good about the economic circumstance coming up, they'll add people, they'll buy more supplies, they'll do what they can to prepare for a better day. That is a driver, because then that gets things moving forward again. And I was surprised, like you, Ryan, at the response to the lack of signing on, I think, to remote offerings for workers. I thought after the lessons we've learned, that would be 75 to 80% of employers would be recommending that.
And it's key to remember that in the white collar sectors, business and professional, consulting, as well as in finance, 60 to 64, almost 2/3 of the respondents said that they were going to offer remote options.
Well, that's true too. Yeah. But the initial slide was the one that caught my attention. All right. Well, Ryan, thank you so much for the presentation. We appreciate it. And obviously the information. Paul, thank you for grabbing it off. This is all going to be published this afternoon, as a matter of fact, and put on the MBN website and the Cinnaire website as well, and then sent out to share as well. So keep an eye out for that. That'll be coming your way. All right. So with that, great insight. Now we're gonna run around. We're gonna get a couple of specific people talking about what's happening in their area very quickly, and then we'll close out here. First up, I think Randy Thalen Randy joined us. Randy is president and CEO of The Right Place, took over for Birgit Close after many years there. And Randy, you have found where the restroom is and where the key to your office is now. So you're a veteran. How you doing?
That's right. Good to see you, Chris. Good afternoon, everybody.
Good to see you. What's happening in your sector?
It's interesting to follow Ryan. I caught maybe the last 5 or 10 minutes of his presentation, and what we're finding is very much in sync with their survey results. In fact, this last month, being an economic development organization, we we really were committed to go back out and see our customers. And so the entire team, every person on our team went out and visited in person with the business community. We met with 118 companies over the course of June, and the data that we found in that quick snapshot of companies was very consistent. 80% are reporting growing sales, 53% are reporting challenges finding people, yet 60%, even in the face of that, 60% are looking to expand and grow their business. So, I'll admit it's not a great cross sample or cross representative sample as Ryan's research might have done, but as we try to figure out how we move forward in this post-pandemic world, we're trying to find any kind of data points that we can, and getting in front of clients right now and hearing their growth strategies is encouraging.
Excellent stuff. I sit on an advisory board for the Federal Reserve, and it's amazing that after their beige book, they match those numbers up with ours on this twice a year. And they find what you do is very, very similar outcomes.
Yeah, I think that what everybody's anticipating right now is what happens in September as people have to make choices now with unemployment benefits declining pretty substantially, unless something dramatic changes in DC. Those benefits are going to drop by about $300 a week. And we know there's a number of reasons why people have been staying out of the workforce, but that is going to cause a new decision to be made now that benefit drops. And we have to, in my book, and I think from the standpoint of a number of employers, we have to see more people get back into the workforce. The last I checked, pre-pandemic, Greater Grand Rapids had 14,000 people unemployed, which was near record lows. It spiked to 100,000, just over 100,000. And then came back down to today, we have about 24,000 people unemployed. But at that same window of time, though, 26,000 people left the workforce altogether that historically had been working. And so now, if you take that 50,000, the unemployed and left the workforce, our mission between now and year end is to get as many people back to work as possible, in part because our businesses need it, but in part the individuals, if you find yourself or if you know people that have been sustained unemployed, their economic future, their economic prospects drop pretty dramatically. And so getting people back into the workforce, getting them back into making an income is mission critical. So that's a big push by employers and certainly a big push of ours.
Well, I think too, we all got to be paying attention to two things in the future. One is we need some immigration reform, because there are a lot of people that want to bring their brains and their know-how here. And we're just telling them no at this point in time. We can't afford to do that. And the other thing is any business should be looking at cost-effective daycare. That's going to make a real difference in your workforce as well.
Yeah. Well, Chris, you make a good point. We've all seen it across the state and across the country. If schools have closed, that's been a reflection of declining birth rates and declining population. And that's sort of making its way now into the workforce. And I think the pandemic has caused people maybe closer to retirement to retire in bigger numbers. And maybe some of those dual income households that have run the math and rethought their lifestyle maybe don't know, no longer both of them need to work. And so it's really been a disruption to the available labor force. And the next 6 months is going to be critical to see how that gets put back together.
Simple arithmetic. We got fewer people coming into the workforce than leaving it. That's a tough one. Hey, thanks, Randy. Always good to see you, my friend.
You're welcome. Thank you, everybody.
All right, next up, Lois Ellis. She's the Executive Director. That's the Dickinson Area Economic Development Alliance, and she's going to give us the UP perspective today. And Lois, I saw you on earlier.
Yes, I'm here.
Oh, there you go. I'm sorry.
Thanks, Chris. Yeah, I guess I get to hold up the UP today. So thank you for the opportunity. Dickinson County that I represent is in the South Central UP. We're on the Wisconsin border. Iron Mountain is our largest town, and many of you may know that we have some famous alumni from the area, Tom Izzo and Steve Mariucci. So I come from the territory that they grew up in. We are a small community. Our county's population is just 25,000 people, but we do have a high concentration of manufacturing jobs in our community, which is not typically found in the UP. More than 20% of our workforce is employed by the manufacturing sector. So some of the impacts of the pandemic have been really acute for us in that the labor pool is very challenged. We have some manufacturers that are trying to grow, and that access to talent has been extremely difficult. for a number of reasons, but also then the supply chain effects have been something that our manufacturing community has been very concerned about. And I think that one is seeming like it's going to be a much longer term problem. Many suppliers are indicating that it could take 18 months or more for some of these markets to normalize. So that's a big concern going forward. We too are watching some of the things with the unemployment running out in September, and we're hopeful that some of that workforce is going to come back to be active again. And then, with schools too coming in the fall, we don't know what that's going to look like quite yet. We're hopeful that they're going to be able to operate fully and stay in session. That would allow and free up some parents to maybe not be so concerned about their childcare options with school disruptions and such. So we're kind of watching those factors here and hopeful that some of the short-term problems might correct themselves here in the final quarters of 2021.
Good.
That's the outlook from the UP, Chris.
Well, we're also getting some themes here. We all have some of the same concerns. Quick little Tom Izzo story. I was playing in a fundraiser yesterday, and I got a call on the third tee from Tom. And I had sent him a text at 2:30 in the morning the night before, and he was calling out a concern that I wasn't getting enough sleep. And I said, of all people, you should not be calling me. But it was real sweet of him. But
Well, Tom and Steve are very generous to this community. They love their hometown and they support us in so many ways. So it's been great to watch their careers.
They're good, salty earth people. They are. Lois, thank you for that report. Keith Lambert, you're up next from LEAP, Chief Operating Officer at the Lansing Economic Area Partnership.
Yeah, thanks, Chris. Yeah, I think I mirror some of my colleagues in economic development, Lois and Randy, in terms of the sentiment around we're really looking forward to kind of this new equilibrium emerging in the fall, and enabling workforce right now is critical. We have a very mixed bag from the companies that we work with, small and large, of concerns with hiring. There's a lot of disparities by industry, by demographics and socioeconomic income levels. So a lot of kind of, just gap filling that we're trying to do. There's a lot of focus on, enabling workforce via employee transportation, via getting childcare back up and running with some different programs. Our organization is launching in the midst of a very large scale relief program that's kind of targeted at different gaps, providing business relief grants to sole proprietors specifically, single person firms that have kind of been hosed throughout a lot of the other federal and state programs. So trying to identify gaps and fill them. New businesses that have started since January of 2020, they've been in a similar position where somebody started in February 2020 and then the pandemic happened a few weeks later. They really haven't qualified for anything so far. So, having a pot of money specifically for people in that environment. But the Lansing region is also in an interesting position because we had this unprecedented wave of large scale construction activity going into the pandemic. And luckily, a lot of that was, it has kept going. I think Glanbia was able to wrap up MWC up in St. John's, their $500 million facility that's now processing almost 25% of the entire state's milk supply, which is phenomenal, and making cheese and whey protein products up there. And they've also been able to hire over 200 folks up in St. John's, a rural community about 20 minutes away from the urban core. Shift Group, we announced a major project of theirs at their campus in Charlotte. Another example of a rural small town manufacturer, and they've hired over 500 just in the last few months. McKesson built a new facility as a distribution company. They're in the process of hiring about 100 folks, and they've been doing well. So it's kind of, we talk to some employers that are really struggling, and then others that are finding success. And I think there's definitely wage pressures. I think the retail and restaurants of the world are driving some of that too. Is if you can go work at fast food restaurant and make $15 an hour, it's kind of hard for manufacturers to continue paying $12, $13 an hour. And so we're definitely seeing that there's kind of like this rising floor, and it'll be really interesting to see once unemployment benefits are back to normal in the fall. I can't imagine some of these employers that jumped from 12 to 15 going back down to 12. So it'll be interesting to see, what this kind of new equilibrium looks like. But we are seeing a lot of interest in particularly reshoring, but also foreign direct investment from foreign-owned companies that are trying to kind of de-risk the global supply chain by operationalizing in each continent that they serve. So there's a lot of interest from European and Asian companies in medical supply, med tech in general. Our existing industry, I should mention, med tech companies are all in the process of figuring out some pretty large scale expansion projects that we're working on. So we're excited about that. So it's kind of like we have a lot of optimism in different spaces, especially with larger industry clusters. Our insurance industry, the cluster of carriers in the Lansing area continues to grow employment at about 10 times the national average. So that's been a consistent bright spot for us. Manufacturing seems to be rebounding, but there are all those supply chain issues. The semiconductors are really just one, but there's a lot of bottlenecks that are, slowing down or challenging, whether it's cars, boats, aircraft, a variety of manufactured products. Getting to final assembly has become a lot more difficult because of some of these bottlenecks. So it's a really interesting time to be in economic development. I'm optimistic. I think the inflation stuff is short term. I hope because of the bottlenecks, once they get worked out, that we'll see, inflation like we had in the past decade or two. But that remains to be seen, and it also remains to be seen what in-person schools, and we know that the labor participation rate dropped about 5% in the Lansing area. I think that's true for the state and across the country, and that's disproportionately women. So, will women in the fall come back into the workforce because, kids are at school and they have jobs that they can advance in, then that's a task of the employers as well as, childcare providers and figuring out an environment where people are really encouraged to go back to work rather than, disincentivized in any way to be working. So I think it's just an exciting time to be in this space, and we're really bullish about what the prospects are in our region, just based on the project pipeline and the things going on. But there's definitely still gaps and challenges facing certain industries, and we're trying to do relief grants and programs like that to fill some of those gaps.
Well, in all fairness, I can't remember a time you didn't think it was really an enthusiastic time to be in economic development. So that stands to reason. I also want to thank you for reintroducing the term, those companies that have been hosed. That's exactly.
You're talking about, I want to say one of the Clinton County commissioners used that phrase, and I was like, yeah, they really have been.
Well, I thought you threw it in for our Canadian audience, for God's sake.
There you go. I'm Canadian myself, so that's appropriate.
I have plenty of Canadian relatives. All right. Well, thanks very much, Keith. I appreciate it. Emily Hines, founder of and managing director of Entry Point. She's going to talk a little bit about Flint and Detroit because she's recently done some surveys there. Emily, it's always good to spend time with you. Emily also knows Ann Arbor pretty inside and out. So, Emily, welcome.
Hey, everybody. So I'm Emily Hines. I'm the founder and managing director of Entry Point. We're a research organization, and we partner with economic development organizations across the Midwest. And so we work pretty closely with about 10,000 businesses a year and doing these analysis in different communities. So it kind of gives us like a good vantage point for seeing different economic drivers in different communities, both at the state level as well as at the local level. And you can find a lot of our research on our website if you were looking for in-depth stuff. So a lot, what we've seen kind of over the last, I would say like 5 to 10 years is like a lot of strengthening and diversification of the foundation of the Michigan small business and startup community. Like we continue to have universities that are spinning out top tier talent, tons of cutting edge research. We have a really strong base of people in skilled trades as well as really dedicated capital institutions. And so that's kind of a theme that we've seen over the long term. But in various specific communities, so Detroit, for instance, we've seen a really tremendous growth in the tech community, which has been able to diversify that community past what people have traditionally thought is just an automotive hub. The tech community in Detroit's also been a really amazing attractor of capital. The startup companies in the region have attracted nearly $1 billion of venture capital funding just in the last 7 years. Which is, we've seen about 300% plus increase in capital attracted to the region in the time that we've been analyzing that over the last 7 years. But we continue to worry over the course of 7 years about the inclusiveness of the tech community. We really would like to see more capital invested in Black founders. We really would like to see more Black founders being lifted up that are actually from the city of Detroit. Initiatives, we've seen a lot of really good initiatives from New Economy Initiative, from Build Institute, the other community organizations that have been making really great strides over the last decade or so. But it's really important that more needs to be done to really make sure that the growing tech community is providing growing opportunities for native Detroiters, as well as people that are coming into the community. So a lot more research on that can be found on our website, but we've also done a lot of analysis of the small business community in the Flint and the broader Genesee County region. And we've seen they've got a really, really inspiring small business community. And I think as that region continues to try to diversify beyond their manufacturing roots and really grow out of a lot of the major challenges that they've faced in the last 10 to 40 years, they are the like small business community, I think, is going to be a real driver of them getting kind of becoming more vibrant and a lot of the economic growth. I think it's the small business community that would be really key to stabilizing their economy and creating a lot more community wealth of the small business community. 92% of small businesses are owned by people who live in the county. So building that local wealth is going to be really important. With supporting the small business will really help build local wealth. And I think that there are groups like Flint Genesee Economic Alliance, the Mdot Foundation, and tons of others in that community that have been doing really, really great work in the last 5 years at least. But it'll be really hard. It's going to be really important for them to kind of clear obstacles away from the small business owners and really clear their path to growth in the future, and making sure that the region is showcased for its vibrancy so that people nationally can kind of once again see that region for more than just the challenges that they faced in the last 10 to 40 years. We are also in a few weeks releasing another in-depth report on the Ann Arbor region and on that tech community specifically. So keep an eye out for that on our website. But that again, like they've got the University of Michigan and the growing tech companies there. They've seen a ton of growth over since the last recession in 2008. You've seen a ton of growth. Companies like Duo Security that have scaled their companies and been acquired for billions just since the economic downturn. But we're now seeing a lot of like dividends being paid from companies like that, where they are, the founders have accumulated become high net worth individuals, are now investing in other companies that are starting up. People that have gained experience through scaling that company are now starting their own companies. So the Ann Arbor region is seeing a lot of growth in the tech community. Access to capital continues to be an issue for the early stage tech community in the Ann Arbor region, because they've got such great research and growth happening in the community. I think that the capital available in the area and the network to capital outside of the area even isn't able to keep up with the growth of the tech community. So it was really promising to see the University of Michigan recently launched the Accelerate Blue Fund, which is a really early stage capital fund that is going to help fund companies that are being spun out of the university. And I think that'll be really critical. But overall, just access to capital for tech companies in that region will be really key to their growth. So really, I think what we've seen is like overall in Michigan and in the different regions that we focus on, I think the region is really leaning into the strengths. And as the pandemic subsides, we'd really like to see people kind of remember to continue to support the local business community, the local small business community, because I think the effects of the past 18 months are really far from being over, and the recovery period is going to be very long. and the small business owners. Speaking as a small business owner, small business owners are very tired right now. And so they are pushing a rock up a hill over the next 18 months that I think it's going to be really critical for people to kind of be like all hands on deck in supporting the small business community as they recover from the pandemic.
All right, thanks so much. I appreciate it. And always your insight is you're always so generous with sharing it. We got another guy that joined us. Hey, Jim. We were worried you wouldn't make it. Mid-Michigan Economic Development Corporation.
Hey, Chris,
give
good to see
us
you.
a-
I had to come back from another meeting, but glad to be able to join you. How you doing?
Jim McBride, always good to see you, my friend.
Yeah, thank you.
What's happening in your area?
Well, things are really heating up as economy is coming back to life. Just checked with our friends at Michigan Works, and they're estimating in our two counties in our service area, which is Isabella and Clare counties, we've got between 700 and 1,000 unfilled positions, ranging from manufacturing to fast food and everything in between. We're seeing some of our fast food places advertising $14 an hour. You set your own hours. And so it's starting to, we're really having some issues filling some of these positions. And that's getting to a place with our manufacturers where those dollars that are being offered are getting a little uncomfortably close to some of their starting wages at some of our manufacturers. So we're trying to sort all that out right now. You know, I do think that $300 extra in the payments is one issue, but another issue, Chris, is for women that are dealing with taking care of children. The lack of daycare options right now is a very serious problem in our area, and I think it's holding back many women from re-entering the workforce. So these are things that we're trying to sort out here locally. So you know, far more opportunities. It's definitely an employees market, not an employers market. If you want to work in manufacturing, you've got your pick. There's every single manufacturer in this area is looking for people right now.
Well, I tell you, you're concurrent with all the findings we've had here before you're joining. Everybody has the almost exact same issues and those same topics came up. So I want to thank all you remote people who jumped in, Lois, Jim, Emily, Mr. Thalen, who I saw left, but everybody who gave us the kind of around the state view at the end of this thing. Just kind of want to reiterate that these things don't happen without our sponsors, PNC, Shaheen Chevrolet Cadillac, Capital Region International Airport, Fly Lansing, Dean Transportation, the MSU International Business Center, Broad College of Business, C2AE, Michigan Business Network, and certainly Cinnaire for picking up the cost and being so involved in this Michigan Business Network, Future Business Index, and ROI Insight as well for interpreting it all. Now, our next virtual event is going to be September 8th at 11:30, and that is going to be a roundtable. It's on mobility, and it'll be a panel discussion. It includes the Center for Automotive Research President and CEO Carla Balo, Mich Auto Executive Director Glenn Stevens Jr., who is also Vice President of Automotive and Mobility Initiatives and the Chief Mobility Officer at the state of Michigan, and Trevor Paul, who's the leading the Office of Future Mobility and Electrification. So we want to thank all of those. I want to thank my team here, Wade Tong, and certainly Jeff Mosier for everything that you put in putting these things together. And finally, I want to thank all of you for being part of this virtual speakers series event. And if you want to go back and watch any of this or care to share it with your friends, it's on the MichiganBusinessNetwork.com. By the way, you are able to, and we had a lot of the uns do this, pick up MBN podcasts now on Spotify, as well as iTunes, Google Play, SoundCloud, and others. So these additional platforms are allowing us to ever expand our brand, our influence, and the size and geographic scope of our audience. So thank you again for not only being here and being part of this, but for all you do. And keep up that good work on behalf of the state of Michigan. Have a prosperous month. We look forward to seeing you all again. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chris.